Hey, what's up? It's the Cash Show. We got Hoop here. It's Holden, and of course, Mangone, who needs a lawyer. Any of you guys lawyers out there? Because Mangone's he's got to sue Walmart after what the hamburgers have done to the poor young man. Good job getting out to the East Coast, though, buddy, and flying with a Walmart infection. How are you today? You feeling okay?
I'm okay, Holden. I was struggling yesterday. I had to wake up at 4, I think it was 4 a.m. So I got like 3 hours of sleep, flew across the coast. So yep, trying to battle this weird cold I got. I got some tea next to me, Holden. So
Okay.
we'll battle through. We'll talk about some cash plays and we got the weekend coming up. So can't wait to watch football all day long the next
Yeah.
couple.
Good times. Good stuff. Looking forward to it. Hoop, talk to me here, man. We were just BSing before the show started. The Lions look like they're going to be without Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's injuries that are mounting up there. We're going to have a lot of value this week. And I think Jamal Williams will probably be one of the first guys we talk about at running back. But boy, the injuries, this is where we start really feeling them right around week
Yeah.
3, week 4. And they're starting to wreak havoc, Hoop.
Yeah, Lions getting pounded this week, and yeah, kind of weird. I mean, I like the Seahawks as a bet earlier in the week because it opened up at like 5.5 or 6 or somewhere in that range. And as Lions being favored, they're still favored by 4, which I don't know, seems crazy to me. And like we talked about in the opening, they're still projected to score like 27 points. I just don't know how it's going to happen here. So that's one interesting dynamic from a betting perspective. But obviously, we're here for cash game talk, and yeah, Jamal Williams becomes a lock for cash games. So we'll talk about that at the running back position.
A lock for cash games. I like it. It's good to hear. Anything else? I mean, we watched Thursday Night Football. If you guys were tailing on the bet side, everybody was on the Bengals, so that was a good night. The money was coming in on the Dolphins. We're on the Bengals. Either one of you guys have a lot of T. Higgins and captain? How did showdown go for you last night, Hoop?
Yeah, I had a team. I had T. Higgins up there. I think on like 20% of my teams, I had him, and I was actually winning, or I mean, chopping obviously with a ton of people before the Hurst touchdown. So the Hurst touchdown took me out, but it was a close call. And those wide receivers, I mean, we always talk about on the show, just continue to put up massive, massive scores. Tyreek and T. Higgins both went off. I mean, Tyreek went off without even finding the end zone. So it just shows you the upside of these wide receivers in not only showdown, but on the main slates as well.
How'd you do last night? Did you even play Mangone having to travel with antibiotics
No,
necessary?
I did play. I played it wasn't I got beat on that Hurst touchdown too. I had some head-to-heads posted, and then tournaments. I had one Higgins captain that was not too bad. So that Hurst touchdown was not kind to me though. And I had Tua in some of those head-to-heads too. So that was one of the things that was a little frustrating. But overall, I didn't make money yesterday, which is fine. Can't make it every single slate, right? So I've had a good start to the showdown season, so I'm not going to complain too much. Can't do anything when a guy kind of gets hurt.
All right, guys, let's get into this here. And we're going to start at quarterback, just like we always do here in the cash games, trying to help you out with cash 50-50, et cetera, et cetera. And we got the big guns at quarterback in here this week. We got Allen versus Lamar at the top, 8,400 Allen, 8,300 Jackson. Interested in that. Hurts is right there at 8,200. I wonder, though, if there's anybody down low. Before we talk about the big guys, Hoop, could we consider paying down a little bit this week, or is it just looking like a pay up week with one of these top guys?
Well, it kind of depends. I mean, so we always talk about these wide receivers on this show and every show, how they're so explosive, and we want them in our lineups. There's not a ton of them this week. A lot of them are off the main slate. So, you go to the wide receiver position, Diggs is up there at 8-4, Devontae Adams at 8-3. I don't think either of those guys are must plays. So, at quarterback, without many spend ups, I'd say on the slate, I want to get up to the top guys. And for me, it's Josh Allen. I think he is the best of the three. Now you have three options. You have Allen, Hurts, and Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson continues to silence the haters, just back-to-back weeks of just going nuclear. Matchup this week a little bit tougher against Buffalo. I'll just take the other guy and Josh Allen. I think he's the safest play on the board, and the price difference isn't that much. I mean, the site's kind of copped out a little bit. DK, they have Allen 8-4, Lamar 8-3, and Jalen Hurts at 8-2. And FanDuel, pretty similar differences. Josh Allen 8-9, Lamar Jackson 8-8, and then Hurts at 8-6. Now, if you're going to build teams and you need the $200 or $300. I mean, I think all of these guys are just fine, safe options, but I want Josh Allen. Now, if you're not going this top tier, I think you just go down. And it's going to be the same guy that we talked about last week, Marcus Mariota, 5.6K. We talked about on the show, the floor is very stable with him. And we saw that last week where he put up 18 fantasy points, 17.5. You take that at his price point, and the price really didn't move. He's at home against Cleveland. I expect a similar performance with a little bit more upside as well. I mean, the upside is baked into this guy. We haven't seen it, but we've seen the nice floor. So pretty easy week at quarterback. I think in cash games, you either go up to that top tier, Allen, Hurts, Jackson. I prefer Josh Allen, or come down to Mariota. I would have had some interest in Goff if St. Brown played. With him out, kind of lose some interest there. So top tier or Mariota, and it's kind of where I'm at.
So, Mangone, where are you sitting right now at cash paying up? Is it Jackson? Is it Allen? Is it Hurts? Or do you see a path going down low to somewhere in that Mariota range?
Well, I think it is only Friday, but we have to have the weather conversation. Do we know what's going to happen with that game yet so far, Holden? What's the current
Tampa? They're playing in Tampa.
No, not the Tampa one. The winds in Buffalo. Is it going to be 35 miles an hour? What's our current update?
14, 15 miles an hour right now.
Okay. I've heard people talk about it. So
which is not great, but
yeah,
it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, I heard it's going to get to that 20 to 35 with like that storm kind of surging up the coast. But Allen versus Jackson, if I have to pick one, I'm probably just going with Allen. Seems simple. If the weather is an issue, Jalen Hurts is certainly a good play. There's obviously the rushing equity that he has. They're big favorites. They're at home. They might have some weather too, so that'd be something to watch as well. But those are just like the three at the top that I like. It's Allen, it's Jackson, it's Hurts. It seems pretty simple. After that, Marcus Mariota. I mean, his price tag at 5.6K, it just can't be ignored for the rushing equity that he has. I know that total was around like, I think it was like 48.5 or 49.5. At one point, it was almost at 50. So I think that is a pretty good spot to go to with Marcus Mariota just because of his rushing equity. The floor is just too good to pass up on. So I like to look at like, what's the 2v2? If I play Josh Allen at 8.4, or let's say I play Marcus Mariota at 5.6, that's a $2,800 difference. Sometimes that's like a $3,000 difference. I mean, when you build out your cash team, sometimes you leave $100 or $200 on the table. That could be a 3K difference, and 3K is a lot. I mean, the difference between 3K is like, let's say I play like AJ Brown at 7.4. Instead, what do I got to do? I got to play a 4,400 receiver. I mean, it's a huge difference. If you play AJ Brown or Corey Davis or Tolbert, Dotson, Marvin Jones, St. Brown, it could go a long way. So those are kind of like the main guys that I'm looking at. You could make an argument, I think, for like a Derek Carr at 5.8, but feels a little thinner to me. He is in that dome, so I think it's okay. But overall, I either want to go all the way to the top, or I'm thinking of just going down to Mariota because of what that salary savings can do for you.
So they are getting blasted in Baltimore with this tropical storm now, but let's just play the other side of the thing here. Let's say there are consistent, 14, 15 mile an hour winds. You get some gusts in there. Are we completely off of Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson then? Does that make you pivot to Jackson, Hurts, or just pay down, Hoop? What if that weather does become an issue? Because right now I can't plan for it. It doesn't look like it's as bad. Tomorrow's a mess, but what if?
I mean, if it gets to the point where it's just, gusts in the 50, just crazy stuff, just go to Jalen Hurts and move on. I mean, he has the same upside as those guys. He's been phenomenal. He gets a home matchup. I believe they're at home against Jacksonville. If it's crazy, but yeah, I mean, if it's 15, 20 mile an hour winds, I'm not budging off my guys. I mean, they could potentially benefit more rushing, which is obviously good for both those guys. So it would have to be just chaotic weather for me to get off Allen, I think, this week.
Okay, very good. That's the quarterback situation. This is a free show, so give us a thumbs up. A little like button would be great. We'd appreciate that. We are humming on these subscriptions here. We just got to 10K. We're just right there at 11K. So subscribe to the Run Pure Sports channel if you can. Give us a thumbs up there. And I don't know if we're doing members never win, but I could just go back to Monday real quick and say, I mean, there had to be $500,000 worth of winnings on Monday and Showdown last night. pretty good night for a lot of people at RPS, some people not as well, but for the most part, the NFL season's been really, really, really good to us. All right, let's move on to the running back situation here. We do not have DeAndre Swift. He's going to be out. So make sure you keep an eye on that. Christian McCaffrey at least returned to practice. Matt Rule hoping that he plays. So there's no guarantee that he's going to be out there. David Montgomery looks like he's going to be down. So some value opening up hoop all around here. And I think Herbert and what is it? Herbert and Williams, Jamal Williams, probably going to be chalk. Would you play both of them in the same lineup? Where do you want to go at running back?
Now, if you are paying up at quarterback, I think that's fine to go Jamal Williams and Herbert. I will say, as I said in the opening, I think you just play Jamal Williams this week at 6.1K. He's not your typical backup. He's already in this offense very frequently. He gets a lot of work. He can catch passes. They're at home, and apparently they're still going to be favored based on Vegas really not budging off this stance of the Lions being favored against the Seahawks, despite them losing a lot of guys this week. So makes you have to like Jamal Williams, 6.1K on DraftKings, 7.4. I think he is a cash game lock. He'll be, played super high owned in cash games. That's fine. In cash games, we're not worried about that. Definitely fine there. And then Herbert at 5.7. Is Montgomery out for sure? I mean, he hasn't practiced.
He's officially questionable,
Yeah.
But it's not looking good. He's got that ankle in his knee and he's not in practice.
Yeah, so another situation where he's a guy that's already typically involved in this offense. We've seen him excel as a starting running back in the past. He looked really good last week. So I'd be fine giving him the nod. I mean, kind of just continuing on with this theme where, running back, the importance of running back in fantasy is becoming diminished. So if you're spending up, you're making some substantial sacrifices to your lineup. So I'm fine going with both those guys if you want. The other guy that is going to continue to stand out for me is Saquon Barkley. I mean, he looks good, and we keep talking about it every week. You want to play Saquon before he gets hurt because he will get hurt at some point and his season will be over. Right now, he looks very good. He was part what was that? Not Monday night. Was it Monday night? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Monday night. Busted off that big run. He looked good, explosive. Just going to continue to play him. He's 8K. For cash games, like if Khalil Herbert, if David Montgomery does play, Josh Jacobs, it's not a comfortable feeling at all. The Raiders need to be playing with a lead, and they really haven't done much of that this season at all. Najee Harris, I haven't played a lot of Najee Harris, but it's finally a pretty decent matchup, I think, for him. Pittsburgh at home against the Jets. Continues to get a lot of work, just has not had a big game really at all. 10, 13, 14. So I'm hoping Montgomery's ruled out, and I'll most likely just be going Jamal Williams and Herbert, and then just kind of moving on. Christian McCaffrey, I'm going to continue to just not play in cash games. Yeah. My fears early on in the season with the Baker Mayfield thing continue to be proved true. We just haven't had the explosive games out of McCaffrey. I mean, in the past, 8.7K for McCaffrey, just he would be a lock button play, but we're just not seeing the activity in the passing game. Even last week, 4 targets, 2 catches. He hasn't exceeded 5 targets yet this season. You need that number to be closer to 10, especially in this offense. It's just like a stagnant offense. So if I can play Herbert and Jamal Williams and get the hell out of the position in cash games, I'll most likely do that. The other guy I would consider, like I said, is Saquon Barkley. So a pretty tight pool for cash. Honestly, I don't really see a reason to go too spread out at the position in cash games.
Same thing on FanDuel. Any difference there besides the 2 values of Williams and Herbert?
In terms of the prices, I mean, I guess the prices are up on those 2 guys that I just mentioned. Saquon Barkley at 8.1K, I think, is a very strong option over there. And then Jonathan Taylor on FanDuel comes into the conversation as well at 8.7K. So yeah, actually, now that we talked about this, bringing that up, like Barkley is only he's $900 more than Herbert, and then $700 more than Barkley. I'd make an effort to just play Barkley over there. Barkley, and then one of those, Barkley and Williams is probably the right pairing in cash games on FanDuel.
What is Chubb's price? I just asked because my internet's being awful and I can't even pull it up. So what is Chubb's price tag?
Let me pull that up real quick.
Yeah, I got SaberSim here. I should know it. God damn it. So Nick Chubb's gonna be in the mix here, even with Hunt. Well,
Well,
Chubb's
I'm
just
just curious,
running over everyone.
Chubb
FanDuel
is
pricing is something.
9-2. They got him way up there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
He's one of the few guys that they got up there.
Yeah, I mean, when you said Taylor was at 8.7, I was like, wow, what could Chubb be at, right? Like, could
Yeah.
it be 7.8? So that's why I was curious.
Yes, I think like FanDuel is more dependent on like recent game logs and whatnot, and he's actually been one of the few productive running backs that they got. Yeah, they definitely got him up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
his touchdown equity is just good in that game, obviously, and it's in a dome, so that's
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you do have Barkley at 8,100, like you said, Hoop. Barkley at 8,100, Herbert at 7,200. So they priced him up, same price as David Montgomery. This is FanDuel, by the way. And then you got Jamal Williams at 7,400. So they priced those guys up, which is actually, they paid attention.
Yeah, which
it's
I
nice.
think brings like Jonathan Taylor and Barkley more into the conversation over there, where the price difference isn't as substantial as on DK.
Before we get to Mangone's thoughts on running back, Blake Griffin just signed with the Celtics. So are we ready for NBA season, Mangone? Does that get you ready to get you all jacked
I'm a
up?
Celtic fan. We added another superstar, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you love to see it. Another superstar comes to Boston, and I hope you guys understand. I'm totally kidding, but yeah. Listen, I'm a big Celtic fan, so I hope they can get the job done. But I will say, I was watching the videos of James Wiseman last night. Like there was like Duncan, and oh man, it's gonna look like the Warriors are gonna be a little tough again this year. So we'll have to see. It should be interesting. The Celtics at least added Michael Brogdon, Malcolm Brogdon. So happy that they at least got that addition, and
it's a good pickup.
What's a good pickup, Brogdon or Blake?
Brogdon, yeah, Brogdon's a great pickup, man. I like Brogdon.
So do I. He's a good player.
All right, so let's get to the running backs here, Mangone. FanDuel, DraftKings, it don't matter, but Jamal Williams and Khalil Herbert, I think, is where we got to start with this discussion, right?
Yeah, I think that's where we start. I want to ask some questions and kind of dive through it a little bit, because you could easily just make this show lame and be like, yeah, Herbert, Williams, let's just move on, right? And I could see that being the route. It could easily be. I think it's the highest percentage is possibility right now, but I want to bring some other stuff into the conversation. So Miles Sanders at 6K. There's no Boston Scott, so that's kind of encouraging. Obviously, we always understand with Philadelphia, you never know who's going to land in there. I mean, Holden, I'm 30 minutes away from Philly. Maybe I can give it a go and play some running back for Boston Scott and dive.
You got to get on antibiotics first. You don't want to get people sick, man. And I'm serious, dude. Just go get some antibiotics and take care of yourself. You'll feel better in a hurry.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see if I can go out there and super Philly, but I do like Miles Sanders. I don't want to ignore him. I think he's definitely in the conversation this week. The thing that I think can really blow up this like Khalil Herbert, Miles Sanders, Khalil Herbert, Jamal Williams combination is, let's say there's a big domino effect in Detroit. We already lost St. Brown. What if we lose Chark? And then what if we also lose Reynolds? Does Khalif Raymond at 3.1K, or does Big T's boy Cephas
is still on the roster? That's great. If Big T ships with Cephas this weekend, the internet's going to explode.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's another guy named Tom Kennedy, and then there's another dude named M. Alexander. I mean, I don't know who the guy is going to be, but I guess the point I'm getting at here is, what if we do get one of these 3K guys to come in here and be a good play? Like, let's say it's Khalif Raymond at 3-1. You plug him in. If you plug in Jamal Williams as well, 6-1, and then you plug in Khalil Herbert, I mean, I got a lot of money to spend. I mean, I have 5,850, so about $6,000 for a quarterback, 2 receivers, tight end, flex, and a defense. Defense costs about $2,000 or like $2,500. So if we plug in one of those defenses in cash games, now I'm at $6,500 for quarterback, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex, and I can't even find tight ends to spend on besides Mark Andrews. So the point I'm getting at is I think there is some kind of route where you could see, if we have like cheap receiver options like a Herbert that just become, or not Herbert, Raymond that become like a free square, you could see maybe moving one of those running backs around, either Williams or Herbert, and going up a little bit higher. It just might end up naturally happening. So, but I think overall, most people are going that route. Let's say you eliminated those guys from the pool. Who are like the next guys that we would talk about? Miles Sanders, like I said, I think is interesting. If you are spending up, my spend up guy this week, I think like point per dollar wise is like Nick Chubb at 7.9K. If I had to pick one to go to, that's probably the guy that I would want to get in there. I think Jonathan Taylor's great at 8.8. If I have that extra, $900. Would I play Taylor? Yes, I'd play Taylor over him. But I think Nick Chubb's the best like point per dollar spend up guy for me. And then you can always punt the position. It's not the worst idea. The only issue that you run into is they really priced up a lot of those guys that were just in the 4K range. They're now sitting in like that like mid 5 or low 5K range. And like, it's just harder to pull the trigger on like Breece Hall at 5,400 while Khalil Herbert's like 5,900 or 57. That's the big issue I have with some of these cheaper running backs. In tournaments, I totally understand taking a shot on it, but in cash games, it's really difficult. Like I think last week, you could have made the argument, hey, if I do a punt running back, what kind of receiver can it get me as an upgrade? And I was like kind of intrigued and I was messing around. I could never find anything that was worth it, but I don't think this week it's really that viable. That's the problem, at least in cash games. Tournaments, anything can go, but cash, it's just really difficult to go below Herbert right now.
Dude, this is, there's a lot of news coming down right now. I think it's interesting that you talk about the pivot there and some of the pay up options as well. So let me just catch everybody up on the news here in a second. Also, like button would be great. Even if you're not watching this live, it'll help us out with whatever an algorithm is. And then Chris Lambros, this isn't an NBA show. Move on.
We literally mentioned NBA for like maybe a minute.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Well, some people get angry. They just hate the NBA so much. They don't want one mention of the NBA. You know, I don't know what would happen if we brought up baseball, but I kind of feel like there would be a couple of those comments as well. So
I always wonder like the people in the chat that like don't like the cross sports talk. Cause like I think if like you're a member, you're like probably down for like, let's talk about a little bit of like, oh, the tennis Grand Slam happened. Let's talk about it. Or, oh, the Live Golf Championship was just going on. Let's like, I'm okay to talk about whatever. I feel like the people that are in the chat that are like, oh, move on to the sport we're here to talk about. Like, they're just not members. That's always my guess. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's
a good thing we're talking about wide receiver next. My God, there's a lot of injuries here. So we're not going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown. On the other side of things in Buffalo, this is big for Bateman and Duvernay. Xavier Rhodes has a hammy. He's likely not going to play. So big time cornerback for the Bills. That's big news. And I can only tell you again, just watch the Friday dump with me and Tambo and Crane. I don't know what time that is Eastern time. I think it's around 5 o'clock. Subscribers know what time it is. Anyways, you'll see it. We're just going to run down all the injuries and what that means for our DFS lineups. But we're getting some pretty big news right now. Gabe Davis on target to practice today. He re-aggravated his ankle injury. So, I mean, this could change a lot.
Yeah.
That could change a lot. So what if let's just play the game. Davis is out. If Davis is out, because again, he's not out. Davis is out. What does that do to Josh Allen? And as I say, McKenzie, the guy that gets the bump, Hoop.
I think it really doesn't affect Josh Allen all that much. I mean, it may be like the slightest of downgrades. Obviously, it's a big upgrade for Stephon Diggs. McKenzie as well. The problem is McKenzie, they got him priced up. I mean, 5.1K. He's not cheap. So what about Crowder? What's Crowder been doing? He's 4-1, and they just haven't got him involved at all. So it'd be a bump to Stephon Diggs if he were to miss.
The big thing to talk about is Kumero's out, right? So the reason why Crowder and McKenzie's roles didn't change is because Gabe Davis's role was they just literally swapped in Kumero for the most part. So someone has to go into that Gabe Davis role. I don't know what their plan is going to be, but they clearly aren't just going to trot out like I think one of these other guys. Like I think it feels like it has to be either Crowder or McKenzie. I mean, is it going to be Shakir? I mean, I like Khalil Shakir when he played at I believe it was Boise State. He's a pretty good receiver. I remember playing him in college though a little bit. So do they even have? Oh man, they got Tavon Austin out there too. I mean, CSU Ram is going to be excited. So I don't know who would slide into the role. My guess is they'd actually finally be like, okay, McKenzie or Crowder, you slide into that role. I doubt it's one of these other dudes that just goes into that situation.
All right. So let's get into wide receiver then. Because we got Diggs and Adams up top, 84, 8,300, and respectively with those two big guys. The third highest priced wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, ain't playing. We got A.J. Brown going against Jacksonville, 7,400. Pittman's at 7,200. A lot of options up here up top, but Hoop, I wonder if that's of those options that we have to go to. Don't you want to get one of those big guys in your lineup in cash?
Yeah, we've talked about it, but we're kind of missing a lot of the big guys. No Justin Jefferson, who hasn't been great to start the year. No Cooper Kupp. Jamar Chase went last night. If I guess either way, I'd prefer Diggs over Devontae Adams. I just trust Josh Allen way more. So if I'm spending up, I'm going to go Diggs over Adams in tournaments. I think it's totally fine to go to Adams. I think most people in cash games and even tournaments will go Diggs over Devontae, because after that first week where it kind of went off, we haven't seen too much. Derek Carr's kind of looked like crap, and so have the Raiders. So I think the ownership's going to be flip between those two, but give me some Diggs for sure. I think this middle tier is pretty loaded up this week, which I don't know, we really haven't seen all that much this season. CeeDee Lamb, I think, definitely benefits with Dak Prescott being out. Cooper Rush is a better quarterback than Dak, and CeeDee Lamb would have had a huge game last time out. I mean, he dropped, what was that, like a 50-yard touchdown, walk in? I mean, that was easy, and it was a drop, and it kind of pissed me off because he was just like laughing about it after. I'm like, dude, like, be mad at yourself for dropping like a walk-in 50-yard touchdown, but he wasn't. Still obviously had a big game. I mean, 22 fantasy points. And then, like I said, Cooper Rush has looked really good. So I like him at 6-7. Come down a little bit more. I like in cash games specifically Deontay Johnson. I mean, uncomfortable situation with Trubisky, but I mean, just continues to get peppered. I mean, we saw with Big Ben last season. Continue. I mean, it's so nice in cash games to play a guy that is getting 10 targets, 12, 10, 11, and he's converted a lot of those. He hasn't found the end zone yet this season, which he's probably not going to have a lot of touchdowns this season, but 12.5 fantasy points, 13.7, 16 fantasy points. Like, if he finds the end zone, he's in the 20s, and at 6K, I like that. So Deontay Johnson, for the first time in a while, I think is back in our lives. Another guy that just continues to get peppered, Tyler Lockett, 11 in the last 2 games. Geno Smith starting to kind of hone in on him a little bit. 22 fantasy points, 16.5. He's only 5.8K. Gets to play in the Dome against the Lions, where I guess Vegas thinks they're going to be playing from behind. So I think he's in play. There's been some talk in Houston about getting Brandon Cooks more involved. Man, I don't think I can go there in cash games. I think GPPs, he's fine. If you kind of land in this weird range, like the upper 5s, like we talked about him, I think, the last couple weeks, but Curtis Samuel continues to just get peppered here. 11, 9, and 10 targets. Like that's big boy numbers in terms of targets. Washington's going to be playing from behind a lot this season, and probably again this week against Dallas. So I think he is in the conversation as well. One other guy in the low 6, Drake London. We talked about Mariota. 6.1K. Continues to produce. I mean, hasn't had a game under 12.5 fantasy points. It's a pretty nice floor for him. They're at home here, so I like him as well. The cheap guys to maybe consider this week would be, let's see, Romeo Dobbs. The connection with Aaron Rodgers is finally starting to form. He's 4.5K. Richie James at 4K. I think he's a fine cash game play. They're calling plays to get him involved. Like, they want him involved in this game. They're thin at wide receiver. I think the Galladay thing is over after like the big drop last week. And then Mac Hollins at 4.2K. Monster game last week. A lot of people didn't really want to play him in tournaments, and you kind of needed him in tournaments. But I guess the other big thing at wide receiver, there's a lot of news we need to wait on, and Mangone kind of touched on it, like with the Detroit situation. So not only is St. Brown out, but DJ Chark listed as questionable, Josh Reynolds questionable. Are we going to have a full punt in Cleve Raymond or the Cephas guy at 3K? And then we have the Buffalo situation to monitor as well. So what you do at wide receiver and cash games can really shift, I think, throughout the week. Gabe Davis news is big. So a lot of news out at wide receiver that could impact what we do here.
Yep. Just one other guy to throw out there is Cortland Sutton. He might be in no man's land. honestly.
I'm fine with him.
6,400. Listen, this Broncos offense is not clicking, but the one guy Russell Wilson looks to, he's got double-digit targets these last 2 games, is Cortland Sutton. He's got more catches and attempts of 16 plus air yards than any other wide receiver out there. And if he gets into the box, then he's just going to have a huge game. So I think Cortland Sutton has a nice floor and a ceiling, Hoop.
Yeah, he's fine. 6.4K. I put him on the playbook. If you're in that range, if you're deciding between him and Deontay Johnson, I'd probably go Deontay Johnson, but I think you can make the case for Sutton though there too. There's more upside, I'd say, in a guy like Sutton over Deontay.
All right, let's go Mangone. Again, we don't know what the Detroit situation is going to be, but I think that's interesting. The Lions are the second highest scoring team in the league, 31.7 points per game, right there. It's what the Bills, the Ravens, the Lions, those 3 teams are the highest scoring teams. So I think that Detroit situation's big. Could you see a beneficiary from that situation being in the cash game lineups as it stands right now? A cheap guy?
Yeah, I think one of them can be. I mean, it just depends on how the news breaks. And I even think like Chark or Reynolds could be in the conversation as like a guy that you go to if they're good to go. So I want to look at them. I know you kind of talked about the Lions and like how's their team total 28.5, Holden. I'm curious to see what that holds up at, but there's one reason why. Offensive line, right? I mean, we don't think about it that much, but they have a really good offensive line. It's played well so far to start this year. And if that line's good, what's going to happen? Jared Goff will be out there still slinging the ball. We'll still be getting PPR points. So I think these receivers are in play. It just depends on how it all shakes out. Let me talk about some guys at the top. Obviously, Diggs would be the best option if that news shakes the way it could. He could even be the best option even if the news doesn't come that way, right? What if Gabe Davis decides to give it a go on Sunday? Do you still think Gabe Davis is like perfectly fine? Like, no. Exactly. Like he could be, not that he'd be a decoy, but like he could just be out there and maybe not for like, maybe it could be like 60% of the snaps. And maybe Diggs is just like mainly getting all that slot work and absolutely crushing. So don't mind him. If I had to pick another guy in the 7K range to play, my lean is kind of, I think, either Devontae Adams or AJ Brown. So I think those would be like the 2 other guys I'd look at the top. That 6K range, there's a lot of guys here, like a ton that you could easily play. And I'm like perfectly fine with. There's none that stick out though. That are like cash game locks. If you landed on Cortland Sutton, Holden, I wouldn't be like, blow up your whole lineup. That sucks, right? Like I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Like no problem, I don't mind Deontay Johnson. His like floor is just really good and he gets to go up against the Jets for all the PPR points he gets. I saw a crazy stat about him too on Twitter. It was like, I think like he's like dead last in like yards after the catch and he's got like -6. Like he literally just hasn't like broken anything. But like we know what Deontay Johnson is. He'll break something at some point. So, and his PPR floor is just so good. I believe he has 10 or more targets in every single game. I mean, if I told you there's a receiver, Holden, that's got 10 plus targets through the first 3 weeks and he's 6K, that's something you might be interested in.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. And I mean, the one thing to love about it is like, we harp on these backup quarterbacks a lot. Like it's tough to watch these guys play. Like it's hard to watch Cooper Rush on Monday Night Football and Daniel Jones. But the thing I've always noticed with it is, do you know what I like about it? I can take advantage of it. I know he's going to throw all these quick 3-yard passes to these receivers. Like I love in these showdown slates when we have these like absolute dust ball quarterbacks just tossing these little passes. So because I can just fade the quarterbacks in tournaments and just play these receivers that get all these PPR points. Like before they even get a touchdown, they might get six catches on a whole possession. So overall, I think Deontay totally in play with the way Mitch Trubisky's playing. Same with Tyler Lockett. I mean, Geno Smith, he's kind of dusty too. But what's he doing? They're scheming him open some easy plays, and it's the Tyler Lockett for those PPR points. Seems like Metcalf is going to be more of that like deep threat play kind of guy, and they're just going to kind of pepper Tyler Lockett here and there. So I think that's a pretty good play there. Again, it's if you fall on him though. It's not guys I'm prioritizing. A lot of these receivers we're mentioning are more of those last guys in. I do think you're going to see some value open up here at the bottom with some of these Lions guys, these Bills options. And likely what's going to happen is your week is going to be, I play Stephon Diggs at the top, right? Or another top end receiver. Then I play a cheap receiver, whichever one opens up his value. You plug in the other spots, and then it depends kind of where you fall for that wide receiver 3. Unless some more elite value opens up and there's 3 clear receivers just to go to. And then maybe that's why maybe you might be able to change a Jamal Williams, a Herbert. Maybe you upgrade your quarterback from a Mariota all the way up to Josh Allen. Maybe it's changing the tight end. That's kind of going to be like what the picture is painted right now so far in cash games.
Okay, very good. We're sitting here, what, about 45 minutes in here. It's not my bot. It's not my bot, Brock. It is very interesting though how this chat 69 guy get it, or person or bot got in here, because I'm not the one that needs antibiotics this week. That's all I'm going to say. It's like it's not on me, guys.
It is odd hold. Actually, one more guy I did want to mention.
Yeah.
Elijah Moore at 4.8. I think it's like a really strong play this week in cash games. He's seen like I think 5 or more targets in every game. And I don't know if you saw, he's been talking on Twitter. He's been quiet, but he's trying to bust out this week. So
you're not worried about Zach Wilson now?
Oh, I am. I'm worried. Don't worry. But like,
so I mean, you're bringing him up. Like I don't want to say Flacco's better, but the MILF Hunter just does not impress me. I'm not a Zach Wilson guy.
Yeah, he doesn't impress me either. But I just do think like for 4,800, like take out all the injuries, like all the injured guys. We don't think about them. Like not a lot sticks out to you below 5K. So like that's kind of the guy earlier in the week I was like thinking about. And then like I did want to bring him up on the show just because I know what his big playability is. Like I know what he can do. And I'll admit, I don't know what Zach Wilson's going to be holding. I don't. But there is a chance he's not that bad. Like there's a chance he does start getting a little bit better. There's a chance, Holden. I know you made that face. There's a slight
chance.
I
didn't even know I made a face. We're just talking about Zach Wilson. And the first thing I think of is MILF Hunter. And the second I think of is a bust.
I mean,
I'm kind of with you.
I'm not claiming he's any good. But what I'm trying to say is like the upside the dude has, Elijah Moore.
Okay.
He was a stud. Like he doesn't need an accurate passer downfield. Again, the NFL has changed, man. Like it's a PPR league. Like that's what I want to focus on. And those short 8-op passes, like they're going to be real good for Elijah Moore. And he's the type of guy that can rip one, right? Like he's one that can just take a 5-yard slant, OBJ style to the house.
All right. Kyle Minke, who covers the Lions for the free press. No, M Live. DJ Chark's absence yesterday was precautionary with his ankle. He should practice today and be good to go. So that's one more wide receiver note for you boys. So DJ Chark, thumbs up.
Yeah, he'll be in the conversation.
Yeah, what's the tag on him?
All right, let me go find that too.
5K, yeah, fair. I mean, he's gonna be the number one, and I mean they're projected to score points. So yeah, definitely in play now.
Do you have his
5,700 FanDuel.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was 5.5 last week. So I bet you on FanDuel he'll be a very interesting tag, because when you have guys that are like 5.5 and 5.7, like they almost just like help you get even better plays in your lineup. So it depends who else is in those range. Like I know Elijah Moore, I think was 5.5 last week too. So there's a lot of guys I think that are going to be in that like high 5, low 6 range that you'll consider for sure.
Okay. We got a couple more positions. We got tight end. We got defense. Thumbs up while you're thinking about it. We got a lot of people in here. That'd be great. Even if you're watching not live, you could help us out by doing that and subscribe. We're over 11,000 subscribers now. So bottom right-hand corner, little red one. What that's going to do is let you know whenever our shows are on. So that's going to be great. Brock Erickson, another thing to watch is CMC's health. Would Chuba be in play if CMC is out?
I think he's playing.
I do too, but what if he's out? Well, let's just play that game. What if he's out? Hubbard against the Cards?
I mean, we already have a couple cheap. I don't know. I don't think I would go there. He's 4.7. No, I mean, he's too close to Jamal Williams and Herbert for me.
Okay. Let's get to.
You said it was 4.7?
4.7, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
4.7 is interesting. I'm just kidding. If CMC's out, it just I don't know.
I think it's very likely that CMC plays. Though I don't. He's back to practice today, and it sounds like he's playing.
Yeah, he'll play. I'm not too worried.
All right, let's get to tight end. We like paying down at tight end. There's one guy that just stands out above everybody right now, and that's Mark Andrews. There's no Kelsey on this slate. Andrews 7.1 on DK, and then there's a monster drop. Waller 5.6, Pitts at 5K. You know what, Mango? Let's go to tight end here. You first, going all the way down. I mean, we like to do that. Is there anybody in that 3K 3,500 range that you're comfortable going with? Or are we just going to have to go find someone a little bit more in the mid range this week?
There's a couple 3K guys that we can discuss, but before we do that, let me just dive in with some of these other guys like Dallas Goedert at 4 or 5. Like he kind of strikes me as like one of the best floor ceiling combination players in that range. If you are missing St. Brown and some of these other guys, Hawkinson at 4,100 is kind of intriguing too. So those guys stick out. I think Zach Ertz at 4.7 is another one that kind of could be a really interesting play on the road. Expect the Cardinals to be trailing, and he's kind of been a nice security blanket for Kyler Murray. So I think that Zach Ertz certainly in the conversation. So yeah, I think those are like the 3 and the 4K range that I'm really dabbling with. Now, when you get into this 3K range, Njoku, I think he's in play at 3.7. If you have no Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox touchdown equity could naturally go up a little bit at 3.8. So I don't think he's the worst play, especially if the wins are bad. Let's say they are. Like, well, Dawson Knox can easily get hit on some shorter yardage stuff. So I think he can end up being in the conversation a bit because 3.8 is a nice price tag on him. But as you get cheaper, it just gets a little bit tougher. There are guys down here you could take shots on, but I don't know. It just seems like the way the salary is going to be this week, instead of going to like an Alberto at 3.3, why wouldn't I just find a little bit more money for Njoku or Knox? Like, I just don't know if I'm going to go this lower 3K range as much. I think it's a better week to kind of not necessarily pay up at tight end, but maybe go to the high 3s and like the mid 4s for your tight end options.
Okay. What do you got, Hoop? What do you want to do? What's the plan of attack here?
So a few guys I'm looking at, obviously, if you have the salary, you go all the way up to Mark Andrews. He's been phenomenal. 7.1K on DraftKings, biggest upside on the slate by far. Fine with that. If we have the money, you probably have to go too cheap, running backs or, work in one of those cheap wide receivers to get him, but fine there. Kyle Pitts, like they forced to get him involved, and it worked out well last week. He's 5K. It's fair price tag there. I like the Dallas Goedert call. Goddard just strikes me as just being safe, and he gets the exposure to this Eagles offense that appears to be pretty damn good. Hawkinson gets a big boost, I'd say. No Swift, no St. Brown. He's only 4.1K in this dome game where the Lions are projected to do pretty well. I like him. And then Njoku at 3.7. I don't think it's a week to fully punt off tight end unless something emerges. Like the way I'm looking at this right now, the cheapest I'm probably going is Njoku at 3.7. Really liked what I saw out of him in that primetime game last week. So you got guys in different tiers. If you have the money, like I said, Andrews for sure, Pitts, Hawkinson, Goddard, and Njoku, one of those 5, I think, should be your cash game tight end. Again, not a week to like fully punt off tight end, which, sometimes we're cool doing that. This week, I don't want to go lower than Njoku unless something else emerges.
Okay. What's your thoughts here on defense, guys? We can just do this really quickly, get defense out of the way. You want to take a shot on the Texans at home at 2,400 against the Chargers and a banged up Herbert? Or is that a bad idea, Hoop?
And I just don't even really care at defense. I mean, honestly, yeah. Seriously, when you're building your cash teams, it should just plug in the cheapest one that you feel comfortable with. And then, if you have more salary, maybe circle back. Like I'm like that Giants Bears game has like a 39 total. I don't mind that. Giants are what are they? 3.1K. The Bears are 2.7K. The Titans against the Colts, 2.6K. Commanders, 2.6K. Which you said the Texans, yeah, fine with the Texans at 2.4. You want to get out of the position as cheap as possible. I guess the Giants at home, favored by 3, total is 39. If you can get there at 3.1K, I'd feel pretty good about that.
Okay, Mangone, any thoughts defense real quick?
Nah, man, my voice hurts, Holden.
All right, you're done. Get out of here, man. Go get some antibiotics. I'm not kidding you. If you got an infection, just get it done. I wish I'd have done it 10 days earlier when I had my bronchitis, man. It sucked. So go to the urgent care. It's my only advice for you. Go to urgent care and
I got my tea right now, Holden. Maybe that'll get me going with
go
the American flag. So
yeah, I like that cup.
Very patriotic.
Nice
I like it. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. All right, guys. That is the Cash Show. We do have some other shows coming up later today. As many of you know, we do the dump, the daily news dump. That will be little bit after 5 o'clock because the guys talking touchdowns don't shut up. So they'll do their thing. We'll have the news dump at 5 Eastern, probably a couple minutes later than that. And then Friday night fireworks. I think it's our last Friday night fireworks of the year for baseball. So get in on that, 6 o'clock Eastern time. I'm pretty sure DC will be there. Yeah, DC and Boynton. So we got the big baseball guys hopping on. Then also the Print Factory at 2 o'clock Eastern, the big show. Print Factory, 2 o'clock Eastern, JSU. Huh? Well, now it's 3 o'clock? All right, then we'll push it to 3 o'clock. Screw it. That's why we're always late for the news dump. What are you going to do? 3 o'clock, Print Factory. It's the big show. Just go do it. For Hoop and Mangone, I'm Holden. Helmet, just get us out of here, Helmet.